Hey, welcome to another episode of the Cheap Champ Podcast where we talk about life and money and the context between the two because everything has a cost and you got to pay it. And since it's tax season, I wanted to bring everybody a tax professional so we can learn about some taxes. Because one thing about taxes, if you don't pay them, you're going to jail. Would you care to introduce yourself today, sir?
How you doing? My name is Jon Harper. I'm the owner of Champion Tax and Bookkeeping. I've been preparing taxes ever since 2015. Got my master's in tax, and I'm a CPA candidate.
CPA candidate, had his master's in tax, 2 black accountants here. So, hey, you don't see that very often. Thank you today, Mr. Jon Harper, for coming by and chatting with us about some taxes, sir.
No problem, man. No problem.
So let me, what's your background? How did you get into tax? Because tax is boring.
Yeah.
Everybody doesn't love tax, and taxes must be done. So how did you get into tax?
Man, funny story. So my grandma, she used to work for the IRS. She worked there her entire career, pretty much in all the different departments. So she was always kind of an advocate of, if you learn how to do tax returns, you can make some money.
Right.
And so she used to, do her return, my mom's return, different stuff like that. So while I was in college and school, I kind of had that in the back of my mind. So I'm an accounting major, got my accounting degree from Morehouse College, 2013. So I took a few electives there related to tax, like individual tax and business tax. And so from there, I kind of thought, well, maybe I should kind of get my master's because being in accounting, I knew I wanted to get my CPA because that's like the highest level of accounting and things like that. So I knew I wanted to do that just because I had chosen accounting because it's the language of business, and I knew I wanted to know business. But I knew I needed a specialty. So I decided that it would be tax. My grandma kind of put that in the back of my head. And then also, too, I was able to find a great mentor to show me how to build the business and stuff like that. So it kind of all worked itself together. But I guess with me having the thought in my mind that that's what I wanted to do at some point, everything kind of came together on its own.
Nice. It's so funny because, I went to school for accounting too. I didn't get my CPA, and my mentality was totally different. It's like, well, you know what? If I'm counting the money, I'm always going to have some money.
Yeah.
So look, if I count it, I know y'all got some money. You're going to give me mine. So that my initial plan to go into accounting was, look, I know everybody needs an accountant.
Mm-hmm.
That no matter what industry there is, it has accounting. Everybody doesn't need an engineer. Everybody doesn't need a doctor. Pretty much everybody needs a lawyer, but everybody needs an accountant too. So I said, if I can get into accounting, I can go into any industry I want to do.
Yep.
Now, of course, I took some tax classes in college. Wasn't fun. I worked for Liberty Tax for for like a week or two.
Yeah.
I didn't like it. People were trying to scam me. I said, you know what? It's a lot of work and the pay was low. So I said, I'm not going to do this. But accounting is the language of business. Nobody really talks about that, because accounting, if you don't have a good accounting, we don't even know what's going on.
We don't know anything that's going on. Neither do you.
Exactly. Neither do you. And when people want to invest in your company, what's the first thing they want to see?
Your financial statements.
Those financial statements. Now, in accounting, I'm sure you've done some personal tax. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of people who like to do their own taxes.
Yes.
Now, could you explain to people what are the benefits of having a tax professional versus doing your own taxes or going to H&R Block where they just kind of herd you through like cattle?
Right, exactly. Man, it's kind of a lot, but let's see. Try to narrow it down. Doing your own taxes, well, for one, you're not a tax professional, right? So there may be a lot of things that you're unaware of that you can do on your return that will save you money paying taxes. And it's perfectly legal to do that for yourself. In fact, the IRS encourages that you do that for yourself. So that's number one, mainly knowledge. As not being a tax professional, there are a lot of things you don't know about the tax code. And it's a lot of legal jargon and things like that. As far as going to maybe somewhere like H&R Block or TurboTax, Liberty Tax, things like that, it's kind of what you said earlier. They kind of just herd you through like cattle. They don't necessarily care about you, really. They get the return done and you pay, and that's it. And if you receive any notices or letters, or you have any like tax questions during the year, maybe you switch jobs and you don't know how to fill out your W-4 or something like that, you can't really call the person that did your taxes at H&R Block or Liberty Tax or whatever. One, they may not be there, may have moved locations. It's an automated system. You may not get that person, or it's just a lot of things. Whereas if you go to a tax professional, number one, you can either come in their office or it's just a more direct contact with the person that you've either met or been referred to by somebody that you know. And the tax professional has not only a wealth of knowledge of the tax code, but it's more geared for the personal experience. What can I do more to help you in your personal situation, give you peace of mind during tax season, as well as not have the IRS call you asking for money?
Right. And the tax professional too, you build a relationship.
Exactly.
They know what's ongoing with your business, because when you go to Liberty Tax or you go do your own taxes, you kind of, you do taxes and that's it. After tax season. Tax professional, you can call them up in July, September, and still ask some questions and plan for the next year.
Exactly.
A lot of people want to think about taxes in January, February, March, April, so they can get their income tax return. And that's it.
Yep.
And then they're done. They're out of there. Now, realizing sometimes you have to go back and make amendments. Sometimes you have to, things change. So, you might get you might have forgot a form. You might forgot, you didn't get a W-2, a 1099.
Mm-hmm.
You might need to go back and add that in. There might be a tax credit that you didn't know about.
Right.
So, could you speak to about, like 2020, 2021? What's different about this tax season that you've noticed than previous years because of COVID?
Man, I think the biggest thing that I've noticed, I would say, is there are a lot of people that have been pulling from like their retirement account, 401k, IRAs, things like that. And number one, they either don't withhold any tax from the money. So when they report the W-2 income or any other income they have, now they're adding on however much they took out without tax. So now instead of maybe getting a refund, now you owe money at the end of the year. And so it's kind of like a headache. And I think the other thing is more so kind of also with unemployment, kind of the same type of thing. Oh, excuse me, back to the IRA 401k thing. And if they do withhold tax, they don't know that because of the pandemic, there again is a special tax code that allows you to kind of maneuver what you want to do with that situation. And not having a tax professional or somebody that's ill-advised, you may end up either paying at the end of the year or having a lower refund simply because you took money out of your retirement account to stay afloat during the year.
Right.
I'm sorry, what was the second part of your question?
Oh, the second part of my question was, like during COVID, things have changed. So we're filing later. Yeah. We're not, the deadline's a little bit later now. People are getting out their W-2s a little bit later. Mm-hmm. And two, some people didn't work last year. All they have is unemployment.
Right. Yeah. Back to unemployment. Also, people are not, and it's understandable because they need the money, but they're not withholding tax from the money. So then at the end of the year, when it comes time to report it, like, they're thinking it's unemployment and it's a pandemic. Like, it's not free money.
Right.
You still get taxed on that money. It's still compensation.
Income.
It's still income. And if you don't have tax withheld or are prepared to pay at the end of the year, then you may be facing a tax bill that you didn't want.
And how are you going to pay the tax bill with more unemployment money? It's like you've been getting paid unemployment. You made, let's say, $20,000. You owe $3,000, and you're still on unemployment. How are you going to pay that?
Yeah.
You don't have a job.
Yeah.
And IRS, they're not they want their money. They'll work out a plan with you. They're gonna, but it's not the easiest thing to do.
Yeah.
What would you say to somebody who is first time, who didn't pay taxes on their unemployment? What should they do? How should they handle that situation? Should they either try to get an extension or how would you tell somebody to handle that situation?
So because it's taxes, everything has happened in that year. So for 2020, if you didn't withhold tax for unemployment that you were paid in 2020, that's over, right? So the best thing to do is, one, don't panic and realize that you may owe at the end of the year. That's number one. Number two, the best thing I would say is you can get an installment plan. If you don't have the money to pay the lump sum up front, you can apply to pay your tax bill down in installments. That would probably be the best thing I would say to do.
People should do that anyway. Pay your taxes quarterly. A lot of people don't know that you can pay your taxes quarterly.
Yeah, you can pay estimated payments if you want. Also, too, because a lot of people are kind of like, well, I don't want to send them the money. Like, what if I need it or something like that?
Then they're going to take the money. If you don't send them the money, they're going to take the money. And just like the guy that sells drugs, the guy that run hookers, they're going to kick your door down and they're going to come get you. So I'm just let you know right now, the IRS got their own police department. They come in suits and they got big old guns and they don't let you. That's federal. Okay?
That is the Fed.
That's the feds. So when they come get you, they got you. There ain't no, we going to let you out. You going to get no bond. Ain't no bond. So when it's taxes,
you're
going to pay.
So, make sure you want, you can set a side account. If you don't want to send them the money, just put the money in your tax account so you can have it there. You know what I'm saying? So if you do have a bill at the end of the year, just pull it from there.
Right.
And pay it. So
what are some of the mistakes you see from people, common mistakes when dealing with taxes, when filing, either coming to you as a tax professional? Mm-hmm. I know when I did, a lot of people didn't have all the forms.
I think that's a big thing is kind of, I guess, doing a thorough interview when you first meet the client, kind of get a sense of their situation so you can kind of think of a strategy that's more personalized to them and what they have going on. Because, everybody has a job and this and that, but people's just lives are different. So, they may need different things. But I guess I would say, that would be the most common mistake, leaving out a form or thinking that because tax was withheld already, or they told me that tax was taken out, now I don't have to report it, And as far as the tax being withheld, just to clarify, still have to report the income, but you can also report the tax that was withheld. So then that gives you the opportunity to get some of that back. That's, where the refunds generate. And a lot of people don't know that too. I also run into a lot of things where it's like, maybe they didn't withhold income from their job, where they go exempt because they don't want to pay tax, not realizing at the end that they'll still have to pay tax. I think those, I guess, are the most common things, missing forms and thinking they don't have to report income when they do.
Let me ask you this. I hear this myth a lot. A lot of people have this myth where they can go exempt for 6 months and then pay for 6 months and they're not going to have to pay taxes. You hear a lot of people saying that. And if you can speak to these two questions, can you go exempt for 6 months and pay for 6 months and skip out on paying? And two, can you, a lot of people they don't know who to claim. 0, 1, because there's a lot of people who don't have children. So right. If you have dependents, you claim the independence. But for those people who don't have children, who should you claim?
Gotcha. Okay, so for the first question, repeat that first question again.
Oh, the first question. The myth is if you go 6 months exempt and 6 months paying, it's going to be a wash.
Yeah. Situations vary. Not to say that that's not totally possible, but it's very, very rare. And I would not advise doing that. Just because the way that withholdings work and things like that is based on your annual salary. And if you go exempt for half the year and then start, withholding tax for half the year, they don't make it up. They don't take out more during this 6 months to make up for what they would have taken out the whole year. So more likely than not, you'll end up owing half of what you would have paid, if that makes sense. They only withheld half, so now you kind of owe the other half.
So essentially, if you make $100K, you're supposed to pay 20 for the year.
Definitely, if you make over it's low, maybe 15,000 for the year. If you make over that, you definitely should be just withholding, period.
Yeah,
because you just never know.
Right.
And more likely than not, you're not going to want to pay at the end, or you're not going to have the money to pay. So you should just not do that.
Yeah, I don't know why people. I'm like, well, how do you know? How would you even know that? You would have to go see somebody, a tax professional, to know if it even worked.
Yeah.
So
kind of
I don't know. I've never been the one to do that. Like
You
I'm just gonna
probably
pay
could
taxes.
calculate it. Calculate, okay, if I make this annual salary, how much tax would I owe at the end of the year? You can calculate it for sure. Um, but it's just the other varying factors with kind of like the payroll and the withholding. That's really it.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, if you go on your W-4, that's where you do all these changes, the W-4. And when you do switch to having them withhold tax, if you tell them to withhold more or kind of, like you can do it that way and it will work.
See, that's what people don't
But
understand. If they're supposed to withhold, if I make $100 a week and they're withholding 10, and I say no, take out 5. Later, they're gonna have to take out 20,
right,
to make up for it. So you're not, all you're doing is buying yourself time, but you're gonna have to pay on the back end. So it's really a wash. There's really no way to get out of it. If you owe X amount of dollars, you're gonna pay X amount of dollars. Period. So doesn't matter what you do, how you want to flip it, shake it. You can smoke it, you can fry it. It don't matter. It's gonna get done.
They're getting the money.
Right. They're gonna get the money.
So it's just, in my mind, best to go ahead and just have it withheld. But if you do want to do that, like, you have to make sure that on the back end you're withholding enough. And to me, it's just an extra headache. So you might as well just,
because if you're doing that, you probably don't have the money. You probably don't have the money. Somebody with the money wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Now, somebody who, let's just say it's my first job. I'm out of college.
Mm-hmm.
I'm filling out my I forget the human resources packet, whatever you call it.
Yep.
What do I put down? Who do I claim? How do I fill that out? Because a lot of people don't know. You get that first job. I know they give you this form, and which form? I forget exactly.
It's the W-4.
They give you the W. You get your W-4. They ask you usually, who do you want to claim? You don't have any dependents, but should you claim yourself? Claim 0.
So they've changed the form a little bit. So now I believe they've taken off the exemptions. But if a company is still using that old form and you're, like you said, person out of college and things like that, it still kind of depends on what you want to do. So if you want to get a refund for sure at the end of the year, you should go with 0 exemptions. Now, that's not the same thing as exempt. That's 0 exemption. So you're not claiming anybody. So they're going to take the most tax out of your paycheck. If you don't want them to take the most out of the paycheck but still want a refund, the only other thing you can do is claim 1, which would be yourself.
That's what I do.
Yeah. It's kind of like your personal expenses, stuff that they kind of figure that you would spend to live and go to work.
Right.
Stuff like that. So those are the 2 kind of safe areas. Now it's kind of easier. It's kind of just based off of your filing status. So it's kind of predetermined, and then you can add like an extra withholding amount if you want. You generally don't have to, but if it's the old form, you're just kind of getting out of college and don't know what to do, I would say 0 or 1. 0 being the most taken out of your check, but you're for sure going to get a refund. If you claim 1, you're definitely going to get a refund. 2, it just may not be a lot.
Right.
So
now the pivot over to business tax, because business tax is a whole nother ball game.
Yeah.
How does a person file business tax for the first time? So I just started a business last year. Let's say you have a DBA or LLC. Let's just leave it at that. Okay. How would you file those differently? LLC is filed as LLC, but a DBA is still attached to your personal taxes.
Mm-hmm. So with the LLC too, it depends. So with the DBA, that's generally what sole proprietors have, and the DBA is just stands for doing business as, which is basically just like a business name, so you don't have to put your name.
Right.
And then also too, you generally apply for tax ID number with the IRS to attach to that DBA, so you don't have to give your social. That still does, it's like a flow through entity is what they refer to it as. So all of the profits, loss, liability, everything like that flows through to you on your personal return. And so you basically just add on, depending on what kind of business it is, a corresponding schedule to report that income and those expenses and the net profit. And then it determines tax from that. And also you have to pay self-employment tax if you make income over a certain threshold.
How does a person, like a person that's a sole prop or LLC, how do they actually pay the taxes? You know, how do they go about? Because I would think you need a professional at that point.
So yeah, it's kind of sort of. It's more so you need a professional for organization, um, and to make sure everything is filed correctly. More so because the business is what you do, right? So ideally, you should have everything conducted already, and if you don't have an accountant, then you also still should be keeping some sort of financial record. And from that, that's the information that goes on the return as far as the business goes. Um, as far as a sole proprietor, there aren't necessarily any like state fees and federal fees required to keep operating. Does depend on your state though, and depends on the business you're doing. I know like if you're selling goods and things like that, you may need a resale license, and you may have to collect sales tax. And so if you're doing things like that, those things you will have to report. Um, and even as a sole proprietor, if you hire employees, those would be things you'd have to kind of keep up with the reporting of. There's different forms to file as far as payroll goes. But as far as if it's just you doing a business and you're a sole proprietor with a DBA, it's not a lot of um, state and federal filings to kind of keep up with, as opposed to an LLC. With the LLC, it's a lot of more so state things that are required. So for the LLC, I know in California,
$800.
$800, man. It's either $800 or it's like 1.5% of your revenue. Yeah, if you're over like a certain threshold.
That's a lot. $800. It's, I mean, California. That's crazy.
Whether you make money or not.
Whether you make money or not. So I'll be honest. I started with a DBA because I knew I wasn't going to make $800, and it didn't make sense to pay $800 just to have a name. I wasn't going to make the money.
Exactly.
So I'm like, I'm not going to do this because I'm not going to make that kind of money. But you know, some people go get these LLCs for $800, and you got to pay the taxes every year. You're not even making any money.
Yeah.
So like, if you're going to pay that $800, you at least need to be making some money.
Yeah. Most definitely.
So I would ask, what would, if a person were to come to you and need their business taxes filed, what would be some of the things that they need to come to you? Like, what would be some of the, how could I make your job easier? I know one first thing you can have is a bank account and some statements. That's probably the easiest thing you can have for your accountant, tax professional, bank statements.
That would be that would be the most like basic thing, is to definitely keep everything in the same bank account. The income and the expenses. Ideally, to make my job easier, I would definitely love those financial statements, like an income statement and a balance sheet.
That's when you need an accountant. Now, you can do that in QuickBooks.
You can do that in QuickBooks. So the thing about QuickBooks, because I also get a lot of people, in preparing returns, a lot of people have businesses, they're sole proprietors, or they have an LLC, which if it's just you with the LLC, federally, it still kind of flows through to your personal return, like a sole proprietor.
Right.
And so they may not necessarily have financial statements because like whatever it is they're doing or selling, they do and sell, and they may get paid through PayPal here or Venmo here or Cash App here, and it goes to different accounts, or it may go into their personal account. So now it's kind of convoluted with other things. It just makes it more confusing. Whereas if you had the one bank account, that would be easy. I know all of these transactions are for the business at least. But if you had the financial statements, I could easily see how much revenue you have for the time period, what you spend on advertising, what you spend on supply, specifics, and your net income, which that is your business. Like I know like people do things to generate business, but like the financials are your business too. Like that's how you know what you're doing with your business.
That's how you get money.
That's how you get money. That's how you get funding.
Right.
Apply for loans if you want people to invest with you, to show people that you're profitable. anything, the financial statement is what they're going to want to see if they're knowledgeable.
When should a person start looking to get a tax professional and actually going from just having money coming in there, checking in a personal account? Because sometimes you got to get organized.
Yeah.
You have to get organized. Even myself, I have a business bank account, savings account, everything. My business debit card is just for that.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that's down there I can account for. Like, I can tell you exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Even that, because I don't, like a lot of people want to travel.
Yeah.
Let's side note. Let's get into travel. Let's get into travel really quick. Let's get into, because there's a lot of stuff about all this traveling, but you can't write off. Because I travel all the time.
Yeah.
However, I'm not to the place where I'm doing all that. I haven't, because I want to speak to somebody before I do all that.
Yeah.
Some people like to, you bought a muffin in the airport. Oh, I can write that off. Your luggage, I can write that. You can't write off your luggage. Well, how does your luggage affect your business? Everybody got to wear clothes. You can't write that off, even though it's a travel expense. So can you tell us, what are some of the travel expenses you can and cannot write off?
Man, so mainly the travel expenses and then as far as writing off travel expenses, first of all, it's half. Okay, it's not the whole dollar amount of what you spend. It's half. Also, too, it's mostly the actual travel, like the plane ticket, the hotel cost, if you had to rent a car, like the fuel for that. And people do the food thing because, okay, if you are going on a business lunch meeting
and paying for somebody
and paying for all of the food, then okay, yeah, that counts as a business expense if you also actually did business during the meal,
right?
But it's not just, and also all of those things you have, it has to be for your business, not just because, oh, I'm going out of town and I'm gonna go talk to somebody. Like, that doesn't really work. That's kind of more so like scammy, fraudy. If we are talking about legitimate business expenses, it's just the travel, the plane ticket, the hotel, rental car. If you absolutely had to go for business, if you could do a phone call for it, then that's not really a business expense. You went because you wanted to go. You didn't have to go. So it's like a necessity thing. Like, oh, I couldn't have done this business without traveling.
Right.
That's when it's.
And you have to prove these things.
And you have to keep the receipts, and also too, along with the receipts, you have to document what happened. Who did you meet? Where did you meet? When did you meet? Why did you meet? So,
and 9 times out of 10, that this not gonna make a difference. Those expenses is not. I mean, me personally, unless you're a company that you got employees going all over, you got salespeople doing all that. If it's just you, it's not gonna really do much for you. I'm not saying don't do it, but don't expect to save no $2,000-$3,000 off travel expenses. It's not happening.
It's not gonna take your, like, if you were getting a refund or something like that, from $500 to $2,000 now or something. It doesn't do that at all. It doesn't do that at all.
And business, you want to pay taxes.
Yes.
You have to prove you're paying taxes.
That's another
want to show that you're paying tax. When you run a business, you have to show that you're paying some taxes. You got to put back in to get something out.
And another thing too, a lot of people, like, oh, I had a business, but this, that, and third, da, da, da. Oh, I'm not making any money right now. So you want to also be able to show progress in your business too. And that's why the organization is, as soon as possible, getting organized and reporting these things. Even if you have a loss and then a couple of years later you're making income, people want to see that. People want to see that, oh, okay, well, you are doing something. As if you're going to be looking for, investors or trying to grow the business in any way like that. People want to see that. So as far as getting organized, you should do that as soon as possible. And the sooner you do it, the easier also it'll be, because in the beginning you maybe don't have a lot of transactions and things like that. So you can keep up with it and kind of get your flow going of how you do it. So when it does become busier, you already know what you do. You're just doing it more.
Exactly. And like some of those small things, like for me, I started sending out invoices.
Mm-hmm.
So when the money comes in, oh, where's the money come from? This invoice matches this money that came in.
Exactly.
So you know where it came from. So it's not like I just have all these, all this income. I have an invoice to prove it as well. And then I have an expense to match that came out. Okay, I need these expenses allow me to get this income. If I don't expend this money on this, I can't make this money. So your business needs to make sense to somebody outside of yourself.
Right.
So if you can't explain the business on paper to somebody, you don't have a business.
Right.
I should be able to slide this paperwork over to you. And you should be able to understand what's going on with my business.
Correct.
And a lot of people don't understand because I work in accounting too. And I work with these startups.
Yeah.
And I'm like, look, your business is trash on paper.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what your website looked like. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter your Instagram. What does it look like on paper? What's that business plan look like? The business plan should tie to the financials. So if you have these plans that you want to make, okay, well, your financials should say you're on the path to it.
Exactly.
We're not going to just give you all this money.
Like what? Yes.
And, and then when you come see a tax professional or an accountant, it's like, damn, bro, you say you're doing business, but this doesn't make any sense. And then it's going to cost you more money because they're going to spend more time figuring it out. You got to pay.
Another thing too. First thing. That's another thing. People come, they have a business, but when they don't have the financial records, oh, I got my receipts. Or even if they did have just the bank statement, as the tax preparer, right? It's not in a form where I can use it. So now I have to convert what you gave me into a form where I can understand it to put it on the return, which is not free.
Exactly.
And so either you're going to pay on the front end or you're going to pay a premium on the back end. So organization is just key. Also, too, as far as being organized and making sense, that's very important because you don't want the IRS to reclassify what you call a business as a hobby. Because then at that point, all of the business expenses that you've been deducting and this and that, can't do that. Can only claim the income, and now you owe tax on it.
Can you run that? Why would the IRS classify your business as a hobby? Can you give us an example?
Man, basically, let's see. Let's say, for example, I sell T-shirts, right? And I don't necessarily have like a business name or an EIN or like I don't keep records really. I sell shirts here and there. I don't necessarily sell a shirt every day or something like that. So to the IRS, it doesn't look like I'm conducting business in the way that businesses are conducted. I'm not keeping any financial records. I don't have a business name, a tax ID. I'm not filing it on my return. I don't have a place. I don't advertise really. You're just doing it. Like just doing something and selling it and making money doesn't make it a business.
Oh man, money flowing in and out of your account does not make it a business.
Yeah,
man, that's crucial. Running a business is the organization of it. Like having the financials, having the expenses. Basically, in my opinion, having a business is on paper.
Yeah.
Does it make sense on paper?
Yeah.
I can talk to you about my business all day.
But what can you show me?
Right. What can I show you?
Business?
What can I show you about my business? And if you can't show it on paper, which a lot of people can't, then you don't have a business.
And again, it doesn't matter if the website looks cool and this and that. Are you making sales?
That website should be tied to a bank account.
Yeah.
So even still with that website, I should see the expense for the website in the bank account.
Exactly.
So, it's just a lot of stuff that people don't understand about business. A lot of people get out here making a little bit of money and stuff like that. But as you start growing, it's going to get complicated.
It's important to know because you don't want to be caught up.
No.
And have to, all the money that you worked hard for, all the things that you worked hard for, now all of a sudden is being garnished.
And we're just talking about accounting. We haven't got to law. That's a whole nother situation.
That's Hey.
And you gonna see both of them.
Your attorney.
Consult your attorney.
My
And
God.
but consult your accountant first, because if you don't have no money for the accountant, you damn sure ain't gonna have the money for the lawyer. So go see your accountant first, because if you can't pay him, you're not paying the attorney.
Not paying the attorney for
So
sure.
he gonna take the accountant and say, "Hey, look, bro, you can't even pay me. I don't think you should go see him."
Yeah, that's true. That's true, man.
So
I was trying to be positive.
but we're being positive, but we're being honest and
Yeah.
being real, because you don't want to get in front of somebody and get denied.
Yeah.
Now you got to go home and deal with your emotions, and your feelings are hurt.
Yeah.
And now you're not thinking about business no more. You're just being hurt.
Emotional.
You're
Yeah.
getting emotional.
Yeah.
Business has no place for emotions.
Man, that's the first place.
Yeah, when you're doing business, you leave your emotions at home.
For sure.
I've learned that the hard way. Look, like working in accounting, people don't care. They want stuff done. They got deadlines. It doesn't matter. Because he has to go take this to the next guy, especially dealing with investors.
Yeah,
you got to have those financials done and sealed.
Yeah,
to get him to the next person. So while you're like just like we can explain in accounting, when you're closing the books, you got closed. First thing you got to go through your bank reconciliations, and you got to close the books on that end, and then you got to get your financial statements prepared. Once that's done, they got to get turned over to the CFO so he can take it up to the investors. The investors got to review that and make sure everything's tight. That's over like a week span. Things have to be moving, and nobody has time for deadlines. And in accounting, if stuff is screwed up, we won't figure it out to the end of the month. Got to push everything back.
Everything.
It's not a game. And when you're running a business, it's the same thing with you. You're going to get to the same place running your business. And last thing you want to do is get to your tax professional. You owe.
Yeah.
And now when you owe, where are you going to get the money from? Because you didn't have the money now. That's probably one of the worst feelings to have.
Worst feelings. Man.
I owe $10,000. I don't have $10,000. And the business got to still keep running.
Right.
So what do you do?
Man. Again.
How do people how do you think some of these celebrities get in trouble with taxes?
Man.
How does a person with all this money get in trouble with taxes?
Just not being knowledgeable and or trusting the wrong people. And because they're not knowledgeable, they don't know that they've trusted the wrong people. And also in my experiences, I worked at a lot of business management firms where we deal with high net worth individuals. They don't even look at the reports.
They don't
just
understand.
To be completely honest, they don't. And maybe because they don't understand it, so they don't feel like it, and this and that. But they don't even review anything, and so for someone who is like unethical or something like that, it presents a lot of opportunity for money to be taken.
How does a person find a good professional, like somebody good like yourself? How do I know? Because your tax professional is kind of like your doctor.
Yeah.
What they do or don't do is going to have lasting effects
on your life.
On your life,
you have to deal with. For sure.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, honestly, the best thing and what's really been working for me, I would say, is word of mouth. I think that's probably the best way to kind of get some assurance that you can trust this person. That they'll do it right, that they'll do what you need them to do for your situation, I would say. And then too, you always have a feeling about things, when you kind of get into it and stuff. So also if the feeling is not right, then maybe pay a little more attention to what's going on. But I would probably say word of mouth is probably the best from somebody that you trust.
Right. Before we wrap things up, why should somebody come see you? Why should you be the person somebody trusts?
Man, number one, I'm the person you should trust because the reason why I'm even in tax is because to me, it's a win-win-win. You have peace of mind. First of all, tax season is like, oh my God, tax season, am I going to get money back? Am I going to owe? I like to give people peace of mind because a lot of people in our community are uneducated about finance and tax and just in general. So to give them peace of mind, they get a refund at the end of the year. They get a little money in their pocket to do what they need to do. The IRS isn't calling them, hounding them. They don't owe at the end. And also, I get to live. And also, too, it just feels good. Like when those people call you and it's like, oh, thank you. Like all of the just thank yous and feeling that they get of not worrying. And also, too, kind of when they're confused about things and I can be there to answer it for them. Like it just kind of makes me feel good. And, I feel like I've done my part, like I'm doing something important. Yeah, man, that's kind of That's kind of why I do it, and that's why you should trust me.
That's
Because I care about you.
right. And it's good, especially as being, black people and whatnot. It's nice to work with somebody who looks like you,
That
who
too.
can kind of understand your situation a little more.
That too.
Who kind of can just, we don't have to necessarily
real
be
personable with
yeah,
you.
be more personable with you.
Yeah.
Exactly. Kind of like, when I had to go see a dermatologist, I preferred to go see a black person because they understood my skin. They may have had a sister or a brother or a cousin who dealt with it. Makes you a little more comfortable.
Yeah.
And I feel like, when you can deal with whatever you want, but when you're going to deal with somebody from your community, they can just kind of understand your situation a little bit more.
Little more. I know a little more of where you're coming from. That may have been me, what you're talking about, so just more relatable. You just have a better feeling. It's just more comfort, honestly. And you still get quality service. You still, you get your return e-file, which you get your return back faster, 21 days or less. I'll get $50 referrals. And yeah, man, just building a community and just helping in any way I can and just being available also throughout the year. Like we were talking about earlier, if you have any tax questions outside of when it's time to file your return, or you want to do some planning or this and that, you can call me. My number's the same, my office is the same, my email is the same. So that's why you should pick me as your tax professional.
Nice. All right, John, where can people find you?
Man, you can find me on Instagram at Champion Tax and Bookkeeping. Also, we have a website, championtaxusa.com. And also on my Instagram, there's a link to my scheduler if you want to schedule a phone consultation with me. You have any questions about your business, accounting wise, planning wise, tax planning, or any kind of structuring for your business. You can do it all there, man. I'm ready, willing, and able to help you all, and I'm excited. Let's make some money.
Nice. Let's make some money. I appreciate John coming through. This has been the Cheap Champ. So if you have any questions about taxes, please reach out to John. I have the information on the screen. I'll put the information in the footnotes because this stuff is important. This stuff really makes a difference. You have to pay your taxes. Like, look, I know everybody doesn't want to pay taxes, but you do have to pay taxes. I'm here because of taxes. Public school, taxes, roads, taxes. You have to pay the stuff for it. Just understand why you're paying tax and what you're paying them for. But you do have to pay them. And don't make it too difficult. Get your stuff organized.
Last thing I want to say, too. Also, if you're making the money, right, because there's going to be a point where you're going to get to where you're trying to go, right, and you're making the money that you want to make, and it's going to increase. Taxes is not going to be an issue.
Tax is not going to be an issue.
You have the money to pay it. So it's at that point definitely about the organization. You want to pay as little as possible.
Exactly. And you want to build that relationship with somebody early. You want to establish, I'd rather start with somebody when I'm making $70,000 versus coming to you when I'm making $700,000.
Right.
I feel a lot more comfortable coming to you when I have $700,000 because I've been with you from 70.
Exactly.
So I'm also learning that when you're dealing with professionals, you want to start those relationships early in the game. Even if you don't have the money, still find somebody. So when you do have money, oh yeah, I remember talking to you. You already have, their name, where they're at, versus trying to start from scratch.
Definitely.
So I appreciate everybody tuning into the Cheap Champ. We are sponsored by cheapnotbroke.com. So if you want to save some money, learn how to travel cheap, go to cheapnotbroke.com. If you want to learn about financial literacy, learn about credit, learn how to budget, save, stressmoneyless.com. They have budgeting, savings plans, and you also go there for consultation. Until next time, take care, and we will see you next time.